Perugia commands its hilltop with an authority that predates Rome, its foundations laid by the Etruscans, who first understood the power of this perch. Yet the city's most profound story isn't found in its sweeping views, but deep within its core. To understand the Perugian psyche, one must descend into the Rocca Paolina, a vast fortress built in the mid-16th century, not for defense against outsiders, but for control over its own people. Following a revolt against a papal salt tax, Pope Paul III had this immense structure erected directly over the medieval quarter of the city's most powerful families, burying their palaces and towers as a permanent symbol of subjugation. To wander through these subterranean streets today is to walk through a ghost of the past, a preserved, entombed city. It is a chillingly tangible lesson in power, demonstrating that in Perugia, history is not simply a collection of artifacts behind glass. It is the very ground beneath your feet, a layered narrative of rebellion and dominance etched in stone. To truly understand Surakarta, one must first recognize it as a city with two hearts. This duality is not a metaphor, but a historical reality, born from the Gyanti Treaty of 1755, which cleaved the Great Mataram Sultanate. This single political act created the rival Sultanate of Yogyakarta and, crucially, established two competing royal houses within Surakarta itself: the senior Kasunanan court and the junior Mangkunegaran court. Today, their respective palaces, or kraton, still stand as the city's twin spiritual and cultural anchors. This centuries-old rivalry fostered a unique environment of competitive refinement, where each court sought to outdo the other in the purity of its dance, the intricacy of its batik, and the subtlety of its gamelan music. What we see, then, is not just one city, but a living testament to a divided legacy. A place where history isn't just remembered. It is performed daily in two distinct, yet harmonious keys, preserving a Javanese courtly culture of unparalleled depth and complexity. Here, at the very tip of the Dominican Republic's Samana Peninsula, the land gives way to the Atlantic. This is Las Galeras. Its name, the Galleys, whispers of a harsher past, a time when this remote anchorage was a final stop for Spanish ships, and allegedly, a place where galley slaves were held. That same isolation, once a strategic necessity, has become its modern-day shield. The coastline is a dramatic testament to geological time, a rugged, karst topography where limestone cliffs, weathered over millennia, plunge directly into the sea. This process has sculpted natural sanctuaries like Playa Fronton, a beach accessible only by boat, backed by a sheer 900-foot wall that feels like a lost world. For centuries, this challenging terrain kept the world at bay, preserving a rhythm of life tied to the sea rather than the tourist trail. It's a powerful reminder that sometimes the most difficult to reach places are the ones that retain the truest sense of themselves, their character etched into the very rock that defines them. To truly understand Ubud, one must look past the vibrant galleries and serene yoga studios to its very name. Derived from the Balinese word ubad, meaning medicine, the town's identity is rooted in a history of healing that stretches back over 1,200 years. In the 8th century, the Javanese priest, Ursi Markandeya, was drawn to meditate at the confluence of the Was rivers, a junction believed to be a nexus of immense natural energy. This sacred geography, the dramatic ravines carved by water, the impossibly green rice terraces sustained by the ancient Subak irrigation system, was not merely a backdrop, but the source of spiritual and physical nourishment. The town grew from this point of power, becoming a sanctuary for those seeking remedies for the body and soul, a tradition that attracted the island's finest healers and artisans. And so, the Ubud we see today is not a modern creation, but a contemporary chapter in a very old story, a place forever defined by the healing power of its landscape. To truly understand the Langhe, one must look beyond the immediate beauty of its vine-stitched hills and into the deep past, millions of years before the first grape was ever planted. This entire landscape is a geological memory, the floor of the ancient Padan Sea, which receded some 5 million years ago. The rolling contours you see are not random. They are layers of compressed marine sediment, calcareous marl, clay, and sand, that now form the celebrated Tortonian and Serravalle soils. It is this specific, mineral-rich inheritance from a long-vanished ocean that dictates the very soul of the Nebbiolo grape, imparting a profound structure and aromatic complexity that cannot be replicated elsewhere. What we witness today is a breathtaking dialogue between geological time and human toil, where every vineyard row is a testament to generations who learned to read this ancient seabed and translate its story into the world-renowned wines of Barolo and Barbaresco. Volterra appears from a distance as an immutable fortress, a crown of stone set nearly 2,000 feet above the Tuscan landscape. Yet, its story is not one of permanence, but of a delicate, ongoing negotiation with the earth itself. The city stands on a high plateau of marine clays and sand, capped by a harder limestone the Etruscans used for their monumental walls. This geological fragility is laid bare at the city's edge, in the vast, crumbling precipices known as the Balls. For more than 3 millennia, these chasms have been slowly consuming the hill, swallowing Etruscan tombs, Roman roads, and at least 7 medieval churches in their inexorable slide. To walk these streets is to feel this tension, the profound weight of history resting upon a foundation that is forever yielding. Volterra endures not in spite of this vulnerability, but because of it, a city defined as much by what has been lost to the ground as by what still stands upon it. To gaze upon the tranquil surface of Lake Toba is to witness a profound geological paradox. Its placid, sapphire blue waters reflect the sky with a deceptive calm. For this immense body of water, stretching 100 kilometers in length and plunging to depths of over 500 meters, is not a lake in the conventional sense. It is the flooded caldera of a supervolcano, a breathtaking scar left upon the planet's surface. Approximately 74,000 years ago, this very spot was the epicenter of an apocalyptic blast, one of the largest known explosive eruptions in Earth's history, an event that hurled thousands of cubic kilometers of ash into the stratosphere. This cataclysm was so powerful, it triggered a volcanic winter, shrouding the globe in a veil that blocked the sun for years, and may have pushed the fledgling human species to the brink of extinction. thereby altering the course of our evolution. The vast, serene landscape we see today is the direct and astonishing result of that ancient violence. Over millennia, rainwater filled the colossal depression left by the mountain's collapse, creating the tranquil vista that now belies its fiery birth. Even the great Samosir Island at its center is not a remnant of what was, but a resurgent dome. New land, slowly and inexorably pushed up from the still active magma chamber below, long after the initial collapse, testifying to the immense power that still slumbers beneath the placid surface. The crescent of Luanda Bay is no accident of geography, but the result of a 7-kilometer-long sand spit, the Ilha do Cabo, patiently built by centuries of oceanic currents. This natural breakwater did more than create a perfect harbor. It created Luanda itself. It was here, on this narrow strip of land, that Portuguese colonists in the 16th century found a base for their trade in Nzimbu shells, the local currency that would soon be tragically supplanted by the trade in human lives. For over 400 years, this bay has sheltered the vessels that defined Angola's fortunes, from the slave ships of the past to the oil tankers of the present. Today, the gleaming towers of the Marginal Avenue stand in stark counterpoint to the ancient, sedimentary process that made them possible, a constant reminder that this city's future is forever anchored to the deep, silent history of its waters. To stand on Lanzarote is to feel you are on a different world, a landscape sculpted not by water, but by fire. Between 1730 and 1736, for 6 relentless years, more than 100 volcanoes erupted in what is now Timanfaya National Park, burying a quarter of the island under a sea of lava and ash. This cataclysmic event, which erased 11 villages from the map, could have left a permanent scar of desolation. Instead, it became the raw material for a singular vision. Centuries later, the artist César Manrique saw in this stark, monochromatic canvas an opportunity for a unique dialogue between humanity and nature. He championed a philosophy that art should not dominate the environment but emerge from it, resulting in the island's iconic whitewashed architecture and subtle interventions that celebrate, rather than conceal, their volcanic origins. It is a profound lesson in resilience, how the most destructive force in nature can, through creative will, become the foundation for a sustainable and breathtakingly beautiful future. To truly grasp Munich, one must look past the gleam of modernity and listen for the echoes in its name. München, meaning by the monks, owes its existence to a Benedictine settlement established here long before the city's official founding in the 12th century. This monastic DNA, a unique fusion of spiritual order and meticulous craftsmanship, is the city's foundational code. You can feel it in the Grand Theater of the Marienplatz, where the neo-Gothic Neues Rathaus doesn't just govern, it performs. Its famed Glockenspiel, a mechanical marvel from 1908, reenacts historical pageants with a clockmaker's precision, a daily ritual connecting the present to a ducal wedding centuries ago. And watching over it all are the iconic twin domes of the Frauenkirche, a 15th century silhouette so revered that modern building heights are legally restricted to preserve its view. It is a powerful statement for a city built on prayer, that its spiritual heart must always remain its highest point. Among the world's great rivers of ice, the Taku Glacier has long stood as a remarkable exception. For much of the 20th century, while its neighbors receded, the Taku advanced, a slow-motion geological surge that made it a subject of intense scientific study. As the deepest and thickest known alpine temperate glacier on Earth, its base lies far below sea level, and its ice reaches a thickness of nearly 1 mile. This immense mass, a pressure-fused accumulation of millennia of snowfall, grinds mountains into fine silt that clouds the Taku Inlet with an ethereal turquoise glow. Yet, this behemoth is not immune to our warming world. After advancing for more than 70 years, its forward march has recently stalled, transforming this glacier from a scientific anomaly into a critical frontline observatory. It stands now as a silent, colossal testament to a planetary balance point, a place where the patient power of the Ice Age meets the rapid, uncertain forces of the present. To truly understand Canaima is to comprehend a scale of time that defies human intuition. The landscape here is carved from the Guiana Shield, a geological basement nearly 2 billion years old, one of the most ancient surfaces on the planet. The iconic, flat-topped mountains, known to the local Pemon people as Tepuis, are not mountains in the conventional sense of tectonic uplift. Rather, they are the colossal remnants of a vast sandstone plateau that has been relentlessly eroded over hundreds of millions of years. Wind and water have scoured away all but these immense, sheer-walled islands in the sky, each a world unto itself. This profound isolation has turned their summits into unique, evolutionary laboratories, sanctuaries for flora and fauna found nowhere else on Earth. Standing here, You are not merely looking at a landscape. You are witnessing a living monument to deep time, a chapter of our planet's history written long before the first complex life emerged from the seas. Caracas exists in a state of geographical paradox, a sprawling metropolis cradled within a long, narrow valley of the Venezuelan coastal range. Its famed eternal spring climate is no mere accident of latitude, but a direct consequence of its elevation, resting at an average of 900 meters above the humid Caribbean Sea, which lies just beyond the formidable mountain wall to the north. This colossal green barrier, anchored by the iconic peak of El Avila, known to the indigenous Carib people as Guerrero Repano, is more than just a stunning backdrop. For centuries, it has served as the city's lung, its protector from coastal storms, and a psychological boundary separating the urban core's frenetic energy from the tranquility of the sea. Every sunrise and sunset paints its slopes in shifting colors, a constant, silent observer that dictates not only the city's weather and physical expansion, but also the collective psyche. The first thing one notices about Canaima Lagoon is not the thunder of its waterfalls, but the unusual color of its water. A deep, clear amber, like steeped tea. This distinct hue is a natural infusion, the result of tannins leaching from millennia of decaying vegetation in the surrounding forests, combined with minerals seeping from the ancient quartzite of the Great Tabletop Mountains, the Tepuis, that loom on the horizon. This vast basin is fed by the ceaseless energy of several powerful cataracts, including the formidable Hacha and Golondrina Falls. They don't just pour into the lagoon, they charge it, churning the mineral-rich water and casting a permanent veil of mist over the palm-thatched huts of the local Pemon people, who navigate these channels daily. To stand on its shores is to witness a confluence of forces, ancient geology dissolving into the present, creating a vital artery that serves as the gateway to Angel Falls and the lost world beyond. The lagoon is not merely a body of water. It is the living, breathing heart of this Precambrian landscape. Marrakech is universally known as the Red City, a name that is less a poetic flourish and more a statement of geological fact. The city's distinctive ochre walls are born directly from the Hauze Plain upon which it rests. For nearly 1,000 years, its builders have utilized tabia, a traditional rammed earth blending the red clay and chalk carried down from the high Atlas foothills. It was the Almoravid dynasty in the 11th century that first employed this technique on a grand scale, raising the formidable 19 kilometers of ramparts that still encircle the ancient Medina. This method is a masterpiece of sustainable design, as the thick, earthen walls provide superb, natural insulation against both the searing summer heat and the surprising chill of desert nights. Gazing across the rooftops, one sees not just a city of a single color, but a metropolis unified by a single substance, a living architectural testament to its enduring, elemental connection with the very land from which it rose. The name, Los Hadices, derived from the indigenous Taíno language, means hilly land, a profound understatement for this dramatic karst landscape on the Dominican Republic's northeastern coast. Formed over millions of years, acidic rainwater has meticulously sculpted the limestone bedrock into a labyrinth of conical hills, or mogotes, that rise abruptly from the mangrove-lined waters of San Lorenzo Bay. But the water's work didn't stop at the surface. It carved out one of the Caribbean's most extensive networks of caves, caverns that became both shelter and sanctuary for the Taíno people for over 1,000 years. Inside these cool, dark chambers, they left their mark, petroglyphs and pictographs that adorn the walls, depicting deities, animals, and the rituals of their lives. Today, more than 2,000 of these paintings have been documented, transforming these geological wonders into a sacred library, a silent testament to a civilization that understood this land intimately. It is a place where the story of the earth and the story of humanity are not merely parallel, but are etched into one another. Beyond the brilliant white sands and sapphire waters, Ibiza reveals its true color in the earth itself. This deep, terracotta red soil, which stains the feet and dusts the ancient olive groves, is not volcanic, but a legacy of iron-rich clays deposited over millennia. The very first Phoenician settlers, arriving over 2,600 years ago, recognized its value, using this pliable, pigmented earth to construct their dwellings and pottery. Today, it still forms the bones of the island's traditional fincas, their walls a seamless extension of the ground from which they rose. This omnipresent, ruddy hue is more than just a geological feature. It is the island's foundational palette, a constant, grounding element that has absorbed the sun and stories of every civilization to call this remarkable place home. It's a quiet reminder that beneath the transient layers of modern culture, Ibiza is anchored by something far more ancient and elemental. Nestled at the northernmost point of a vast fjord, Squamish exists as a point of convergence, a place where the deep blue of the Pacific pushes inland to meet the staggering granite of the coast mountains. Its very name, derived from the Squaxaquo Seven-Mesh people, is often translated as Mother of the Wind, a title earned from a powerful, daily phenomenon. Each afternoon, as the inland air heats and rises, cooler, heavier air from the ocean is pulled up the Howe Sound, creating a consistent, powerful outflow wind. This invisible force, a thermal engine of immense scale, is not merely weather. It is the valley's defining characteristic. It is felt in the presence of the Squamish Chief, a 700-meter monolith that has stood sentinel for millennia, its sheer face a testament to geological forces that dwarf human timescales. Here, one begins to understand that the landscape is not a static backdrop, but an active participant in a constant, elemental dialogue between wind, water, and stone, a conversation that has shaped every aspect of life in its path. Stretching across the Great Rift Valley, Lake Natron presents a deceptive mirage, a painter's palette of crimson and rose that seems almost serene from a distance. This unearthly beauty, however, is a chemical illusion, a direct consequence of its neighbor, Ol Doño Lingay, the planet's only active volcano to erupt natrocarbonatite lava. This rare geology continuously leaches sodium carbonate into the lake, creating a caustic, alkaline soup with a pH that can climb above 10. The startling red hue is not the water itself, but vast blooms of Haloarchaea, salt-loving microorganisms that thrive in the extreme salinity. For most other creatures, it is a lethal trap. Animals that perish in its shallows are often calcified, preserved in haunting, statue-like forms by the very minerals that give the lake its name. And yet, it is precisely this hostility that secures the future for another. For it is here that nearly 75% of the world's lesser flamingos are born, their nesting grounds protected by the caustic waters that deter all predators. To understand Girona is to look beyond the vibrant facades reflected in the river Onyar and into the very stone from which it rises. The city's enduring character is chiseled from a unique local material, a nummulitic limestone known as Pedra de Girona. Look closely at the ancient walls or the cathedral's facade, and you are seeing the compressed remains of a prehistoric seabed. Each block is a dense aggregate of millions of tiny, disc-shaped marine fossils, organisms that lived more than 40 million years ago. For over 2 millennia, from the original Roman foundations to the great 9th century fortifications, this fossil-rich stone has given the Barivel its signature golden gray palette. It means that to walk these streets is not merely to trace the steps of medieval merchants or conquering armies. It is to tread upon a history measured not in centuries, but in geological epochs, a city literally built from the ghosts of an ancient ocean. Nestled at the confluence of 3 powerful glacial rivers, the Susitna, the Chulitna, and the Talkeetna, the town's story is one of convergence, not just of water, but of human ambition. Though established in 1916 as a key railroad supply station, its true identity was forged by the colossal peak that dominates its northern skyline. For more than 70 years, Talkeetna has been the indispensable staging ground for nearly every climber attempting to summit Denali, North America's highest mountain. This singular, high-stakes purpose imbues the community with a palpable sense of gravity that belies its rustic facade. It's a place of meticulous preparation and quiet resolve, where the air itself feels charged with the focused energy of those about to test their limits against an unforgiving giant. The historic log buildings aren't just relics. They are silent witnesses to a century of courage and consequence, guardians of stories of both triumph and tragedy. Here, at the end of the road, one finds not an ending, but a threshold, the final human-scale outpost before confronting the vast, indifferent wilderness of the Alaska Range. The story of La Romana isn't etched in ancient stone, but in the precise calibration of trade. Its very name derived from a large balanza romana, a scale once used to weigh sugarcane before it was shipped from this burgeoning port. Founded in the early 20th century, the city's destiny was shaped not by conquistadors, but by the global appetite for sugar. The colossal Central Romana Mill, established in 1917, became the engine of this region, transforming a quiet riverbank into one of the largest sugar producers on the planet, a distinction it still holds. Today, the deep, placid waters of the Chavon River reflect this dual identity. On one bank, the industrial pulse of the port and the vast, geometric cane fields stretching to the horizon. On the other, the gateway to manicured Caribbean luxury. It's a place built on a single, sweet commodity, a city that measures its history by the ton, where the rhythms of industry and escape flow together as one powerful current. The silhouette of Zaanse Schans against the Dutch sky is iconic, but to see these windmills merely as picturesque relics is to miss their revolutionary purpose. This was not a tranquil village. It was the world's first industrial zone. By the 17th century, over 600 industrial windmills crowded these riverbanks, their sails turning in the relentless North Sea wind to power a nation's ambition. Each mill had its specialty. One ground pigments for the old master's palettes, another pressed oil from seeds, while colossal sawmills, a Dutch invention, processed Scandinavian timber for the ships of the Dutch East India Company. Standing here, amidst the rhythmic creak of wooden gears and the faint scent of linseed oil on the breeze, you are not just observing a moment frozen in time. You are witnessing the very engine of the Dutch Golden Age. A landscape where ingenuity harnessed nature, and the power of the wind quite literally built an empire. To comprehend the Tongass, one must think in geological time. Less than 20,000 years ago, this entire 17 million acre expanse lay crushed beneath an ice sheet nearly 2 miles thick. The dramatic fjords and the thousands of islands of the Alexander Archipelago are the direct scars of that glacial retreat, a geography carved by unimaginable pressure. Yet the story doesn't end there. The most profound secret of the Tongass is a process still unfolding: isostatic rebound. With the colossal burden of ice finally lifted, the crust of the Earth is slowly rising, in some places by as much as 1 inch per year. This silent, patient ascent is the deep rhythm of the landscape, subtly altering salmon streams and reshaping shorelines. It is this very stability, this slow motion inheritance from the ice, that has allowed the old-growth forest to flourish, sequestering more carbon in its ancient biomass than any other national forest in the country. We are not just witnessing a collection of trees, but the lingering, powerful exhale of the last ice age. The soul of Leipzig is best understood not in its grand squares, but within its labyrinthine network of passages, a legacy of its 800-year history as a pivotal European trade hub. These elegant arcades were more than mere shortcuts. They were an ingenious architectural solution born from commerce. As early as the 15th century, merchants with deep but narrow plots of land built covered walkways through their courtyards to maximize valuable street-front retail space, creating new arteries of trade hidden from the main thoroughfares. To step from a bustling street into the quiet, glass-roofed world of the Medlar Passage today is to feel this history firsthand. The soundscape shifts, the light softens, and the city reveals a more intimate, contemplative dimension. These are not just physical structures. They are a metaphor for the city itself, a place that has always been a passage, not only for goods, but for the revolutionary currents of music, thought, and ultimately, the peaceful protests of 1989 that changed the world.